Ahoy! Today was just going to be an event guide for the new event, but unfortunately there are some problems that we need to talk about with this event, partially affecting higher level players and partially affecting especially more casual players, so we'll have two parts of separate problems here that we need to address. So the first thing that you'll see is if you go to any of the vendors for the event right here, you can buy various patterns, and these are purple patterns here as well as legendary patterns which come with a cooldown. So far so good. Armor patterns, weapon patterns, nothing crazy here. This is kind of like it worked in the last years. And if you look at my inventory, you will see I have all four kinds of patterns bought right here. There's no restriction or anything on them that you could see. There's nothing that mentions anything except that the legendary ones can craft 700 gear score, and for the other ones it doesn't specify anything. Now, if we were to go to a forge, then we should be able to craft armor and weapons here. So we should be able to use both patterns. But as you can see, that is not the case. There is only a selection of legendary patterns here. The shields are included in that and nothing else. And for some reason the flail is on a separate one, but oh well. The armor doesn't show up, both purple and legendary, and the purple weapons don't show up. We can craft these patterns here and they give us a lot of weaponsmithing XP, which is pretty huge as an early boost. You get relatively okay-ish gear here with lifestealing and flame attunement locked, but also nothing crazy. And in return, you need a whole bunch of cooldown mats, the old ones, so not the new ones. The problem with the armor pattern in particular is that it doesn't use these cooldown mats. Instead, it uses the new cooldown mats, the prismatic materials, which means you can't really access it the same way because it's also restricted in crafting level. Apparently it's somewhere above 200 that you need in order to craft them. And that is why I can't see them, because my crafting level isn't high enough. And the same thing applies for all of the purple patterns. Apparently these have a skill restriction for crafting them of 150, thanks to F, who sent me a screenshot of his engineering part here. So you can technically craft them, but then they're also just 600 gear score crafts unless you have all the highest tier materials, prismatic materials, at which point they can be 700 probably, and then they're just weapons that have flame attunement locked, and you can put another perk on them. Problem for high level players here is if you're a bit more experienced, you know that these are not exactly weapons that you would spend expensive resources on, and at the moment these cooldown resources on fresh start servers are very expensive. We have weapons that can go beyond 700 gear score that we can get for less effort and arguably with better perks. Flame attunement and lifestealing is a combination that I would say is not that great, especially because flame attunement is the weakest attunement due to many people building protections against it. On the other hand, if we go do a couple doubloon runs in the PvE zone, if you will, you don't even need to go into the free fall PvP zone. You can do this in the PvE zone. We can get 710 gear score weapons with keen and penetrating them powered, which is definitely better for PvP and possibly also in some situations even better for PvE, just due to the fact that you can get a good third perk and there's nothing like lifestealing on there. Just as a quick side note at this point, if you're enjoying the video so far, consider subscribing and clicking the bell. And if you enjoy trading tips, then consider supporting me on Patreon. Posted one yesterday in preparation for today, so my patrons are making bank today if they followed that tip. For more casual players, the biggest problem is that it will take them forever to even unlock these patterns to get to the level of crafting required to use any of these except for the weapons. This is fixable. I'm sure they can fix these patterns, but I don't know if they will go through the effort of doing that. In addition to that, there is another problem for new players, and that's especially for those who are very casual, and many of them are currently complaining about exactly that. The event itself requires you to kill a world boss which spawns in various locations across the world. First of all, as a new player that may not have progressed through everything yet, you may not even have all of the locations unlocked. You may not be able to go to many of these spots quickly enough yet before the boss is already killed, so you kind of have to explore the whole map first to even be able to participate. Additionally, even if you find yourself participating, you will be in a situation where you need to deal enough damage to the boss to get contribution, but also not die in the process. And since this boss does some pretty heavy-hitting AoE skills, that is not easy at all, making it extremely challenging for low-level players to participate properly. Now, there are some things you can do to make it easier for yourself. First of all, you should try and join the raid group for the boss. This may increase your chances to get credit for killing the boss. Not really guaranteed, but it definitely helps. Go in recruitment chat and say X event or X world boss or whatever they say on your server, and hope that you get an invite. Be PvE flagged, that's very important. If you're PvP flagged, you're probably not gonna survive the encounter in the first place. Try to stay close to any healers. Make sure to grab a camp beforehand that allows you to respawn close to the boss if you get killed. And then there are these pumpkin mobs that crawl across the floor during the boss fight. And when they die, they drop a pumpkin on the floor, and you can pick that up and you can throw it at the boss. Deals around 20,000 damage, so enough for you to get credit on the boss. And if it's in his down phase, if his stamina is broken, then it even deals like 200,000 damage. This also means as long as you're able to throw a pumpkin at the boss, you don't need to have any damage stats, and you can just use full constitution in order to survive the encounter and just focus on grabbing those pumpkins. Ideally also use a ranged weapon and get out of melee whenever you can. But again, stay close to a healer as well so you have as much chance as possible to survive. Credit for this tip collection here goes to Cobra Kaiser, who posted that on the New World Discord. All in all, definitely room for improvement with this event for pretty much all players. But I will give you some tips tomorrow that make the event a bit easier, a bit quicker, and a bit more effective. So if you're interested in that, consider subscribing and clicking the bell. If you'd like to get early trading tips, then consider supporting me on Patreon. Thanks to all of my patrons who I do exactly that. And thank you for watching. Sloth out.